can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships, she bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and portion to her handmaids, to her maidens. She considereth a field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengthening her arms. She perceiveth that the merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth for her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellent of them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord shall be praised.
Amen. Give
her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates.
Amen.
You may be seated. So first we must know the book of Proverbs is a book of wisdom for skillful dealings in every area of life. It is a bunch of sayings or poems that give us some insight into the wisdom of God. For example, me and Pastor was speaking the other day, and I said that it's not what you know, but it's what you do with what you know. And he said that knowledge is nothing without application. And that is what wisdom is, applying what you know. But the wisdom we speak of, the wisdom we speak of God, said that he gives it to all men liberally. In James, the 1st chapter, 5th verse. Most of the book of Proverbs was written by Solomon, the author for chapters 22, 24, 30, and 31 are unidentified. But we know that the Holy Spirit authors the entire book anyway.
Yes.
Written between 971 and 686 BC, there was a king by the name of Lemuel. No one knows very much about him, but they do know that before he became king, his mother gave him some wise sayings. And in order to remember them, she most likely put them in a song or poem. For example, how did we learn our ABCs? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. We sung them.
Mm-hmm.
It is 22 verses from verse 10 to 31. And it is also 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So it was very likely she memorized these words, or helped him to memorize these words for the purpose of singing. So he probably remembered these sayings like we remember our alphabet. And this was not just the king, this was most young men growing up. Because every man in those days desired a wife. Unlike today, where wives and mothers are being ostracized or said that they're not important in the role of a household, but we beg to differ.
Amen.
But he asks a question in verse 10. And I thought about this question. And it's amazing. It's an amazing question. The text in verse 10 starts off by asking a question. Very good question. Who can find a virtuous woman? That's to say, if there is any. That's given that thought process. Now, before a few guys here start sticking our chest out, chapter 20 of Proverbs says, who can find a faithful man? So that puts all of us in the same barrel. But this question shows that every man will be in search for a wife. Because in the garden, when God created Eve, he created Eve for Adam. The word virtuous in the text means wife of valor. Of valor. The word valor is a great courage in the face of danger, especially in battle. But the text, it would be better to translate it, the battle for keeping the home. Man can't find one because her price is above rubies. Another way of saying she's worth more than anything you can buy. See, men think because we have the money and we got the power that he can make him a virtuous woman. You can't. Man cannot make a virtuous woman. But I know somebody that can. This superwoman is so trustworthy that he could leave like most men did in those days and go out to work, afar off to work, and come home and still have a home to come to. He didn't have to hide the credit cards and the valuable things because she was going to shop till she dropped. And come back and the house would be completely sold off or auctioned off. Because she didn't take the things out of the house that were of value and pawn them off. He didn't have to set up hidden cameras in his house because she was trustworthy. See, he didn't have to worry about the mailman knocking on the door. The milkman coming by when it wasn't even his route. Because once that trust barrier is broken, a relationship becomes much more harder to deal with. Yeah. The word need for spoil in the text means lack of gain. He didn't come home to worry about everything that happened while he was gone. So it's like you coming home from a hard day's work. You've been gone, but you got home and all of a sudden everything's in chaos. The kids aren't situated and the bills are behind and all of these things have happened while you were away because she hopped them off or she didn't pay or she didn't do. This superwoman handled her business. He didn't have to worry about whether or not she was going to handle her business. He could be free to work. You know, one thing that would mess me up was when I got ready to go to work, my wife would call. Said, we need to talk. Started to mess out of me because I'm thinking, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? And it wouldn't be negative. She just said, we need to talk. And I'd be like, what did I do? Did I do something? What was I supposed to do something? What did I forget? Did I forget that? And then she'd say, oh, well, we just need to talk about this, that, and that. And it wasn't even nothing wrong. It was just, in my mind, I thought I messed up. A man can't live off of that. He can't work at his job and be fully functional at his job with that on his mind. Because now he's taking that and he's saying, I think I messed up my household. I think I made a mistake. And so now, this superwoman never puts that in his mind. And then verse 12 says, she'll do him good and not evil. Well, why would they use that? What's the purpose for that? Because I am certain that the mother of King Lemuel has seen her share of bad women. Like in Proverbs 5, says, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard this discretion, that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. So this mama most likely knew some women that was running around in town that were not virtuous. So since there were plenty of them women to go around, the mother says, pick one that is virtuous. That union of marriage is never supposed to be broken, because she said all the days of her life she was to do good by him. Now, verse 13, I thought about my wife with this one. She goes to find the best things for her household.
Lord help.
Says wool and flax. This wasn't your run of the mill. This wasn't your round the corner shopping center. This was, I gotta go a little further. Because see, everybody looked the same in this group. But I want mine to stand out. You see what I'm saying? So
They will shop.
yeah. But she worked with her hands.
All right now.
And this reference is to sewing. Back then they didn't have shopping centers, so you had to start from scratch.
Amen.
You had to go to the places to get the raw material, then come home and put it together. And then when she put it together, she didn't just throw it together. She didn't just, y'all be all right with that. No, she put it together and made it look good.
All right.
So it's like they said, it's comfortable and it's breathable material. You know, she did the best with what she had.
Amen.
And then she said, that's why I said I thought about my wife. She brings the goods, the good foods. See, she brings the foods from afar.
Come on.
She's not traveling down to the nearest marketplace to get the common things that everybody eats. She ain't going.
Yeah.
She ain't going to McDonald's.
McDonald's down there.
No. We ain't eating at McDonald's. No. We're
Picking
gonna
on
get
you,
some
sister.
home cooking going. We're gonna get some good food for your soul going. It reminds me of when
That ain't gonna work. I can see
When my
you
wife-
out there saying,
when my wife went vegan and started to explain to me why she felt we needed to eat smarter and healthier.
Yeah.
Because this was the way, as a wife and a mother, that she felt God was
Come on,
moving her and
Come
her
on.
family into doing.
"Nah."
So she said, if I'm going to be responsible to feed y'all, I will not feed y'all mess. See what I'm talking about? She took the time out to research herself.
"Nah."
And then she ate it herself first before she put it on the plate.
Come on now.
And then after she put it on the plate, she realized this is healthier eating. So now I can feed my family something better than to run with me a McDonald's burger. Which we don't know where the meat come from, no way.
Come on now.
Mystery meat.
Mystery meat.
And then it says while it's dark. It says that she gets up while it's dark and starts to prepare food for her household for the morning. In today's society, the wife is most likely working as well. Which means that this text was really speaking of a wife that didn't have to work to keep the bills paid. In today's world, it's difficult to not have the two incomes. But this woman would wake up, feed the men in her house, and pass out assignments to the maids.
Come on now.
So she would delegate the work based off of its importance. That's why I say she the manager. She come through her and she said, okay, you do that, you do that, you do this, you do that. I'm going to do what pertains to this household, and then we're going to make it all come together. She passing out assignments. It's like she get her assignment from the Lord, and then she go to work. But she don't try to do it all by herself. She start delegating assignments. Here you go, do that. I need you to do this. And then, verse 16, she sees an investment and buys it with her own money. What we talking about money? Where she gets her money from? Did the husband give her some money? Was that her allowance for the week? No, she earned it by making them garments.
Come on now.
See, not only did she clothe her family, but she did much. She sold on the side, so she got a little side business of sewing, and then she see the investment. She didn't call and ask her husband, could she buy that land? Could she do any work over there? She didn't call her husband. No, what she did was she took it upon herself to use her own money. And then when she used her own money, she was already in communion with the Lord. So she didn't need to call her husband, because her husband, if he following the Lord, and he knows she following the Lord, there ain't gonna be no bad decision making. So she took her own money and purchased land. This means that this woman took the initiative to go out there and see an investment, not only see the investment, but choose to plant a vineyard on it so he could reap something.
Come on now.
So not only is she the manager of the house and doing all this, she out there making side businesses. Not only is she side business movement, she walking far to get the food. Not only is she walking far to get the food, she walking far to get the clothes. Not only is she walking far to get the clothes, she coming home and putting it all together.
Amen.
Superwoman. Strong hands. Says that her strength is in her arms. We're not talking about Planet Fitness, y'all. She ain't going to the gym. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about she's strong because the labor that she was doing in the fields was work. Most of our grandmothers and great-grandmothers worked in farm environments, and they had stronger arms than any woman I seen.
Yeah.
And could work for hours on end, day in and day out, and you never hear them complain.
No.
Everyone today says that being a at-home wife is easy, but I beg to differ. I believe that it is the hardest job that a woman could have, and I believe that it is one of the best jobs that a woman could do. But the world says that she is better outside of the home than inside of the home, and that's a lie straight from Satan himself. That's a lie. Because I believe that the woman in the household makes the household move and function in a way that, because we can't do it. And I'm going to tell you why a man can't do it, because he's too busy working. He out there dealing with the hardships of the world. When he come home, though, when he come home to a managed house.
Amen.
So she up all night making money too. It says that her side business is doing well. So when everyone else is asleep, she putting in overtime to bring in more money for the household. In those days, they used a lamp to light the house, and the lamp used oil. And every once in a while, the oil would dry up because you were using it. She would make sure that it never went out. She acts independently from her husband, but also she acts coinciding him as well. It's like, that's why the Bible says don't be unequally yoked. You ever seen a horse running off step from another horse on a coach? You'll never see it, because they find the stride together. And once they find that stride together, they make moves. They're making up ground. But if one ain't running, then you can't move the ground. See, it'd be like me running this way, but my wife telling me going that way. I can't do that. That's why I believe Pastor told my wife, if you help me help him be faithful,
There you go.
he'll be a better man. I believe that's why he said, well, of course I know that's why he said it, because it happened.
It happened.
It happened.
Yeah. Praise God.
Then she's making clothes. She's laying her hand to the spindle. I don't know anything about a spindle, but except for what you see on TV. Little wheel that you press and it turns, and she's making these clothes with this spindle. And not only did she make bedding for her family, clothing for her family, as well, she had it as a side business. So that means she wasn't sitting around doing nothing.
Amen.
She was working on a constant basis. But her goal isn't to get rich.
Mm.
It's to fill a need.
Mm-hmm.
See, she's up working, but it's not just for her home. It's for the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So she extends her hands to help the poor and the needy.
Yeah.
Which shows that this woman's family wasn't the only thing on her mind.
Amen.
It was the well-being of others.
Amen.
See, very likely when she would travel to go get the wool and flax and the fine foods, she would see people in need and think of them when she was up late at night spending. He didn't have a coat. She didn't have a bed. She had her own thing going. The man, he wasn't up, what you doing? They don't need no clothes. You need to make God had put on her heart. Because matter of fact, he was asleep. Because he was worried about what God put on his heart.
Watch out.
See, that's everybody working out your own salvation with fear and trembling. See, I can't work on hers and she can't work on mine. One thing I learned about this thing called marriage. When I stopped praying God change her and change me,
Come on now.
it changed me.
Right.
And now we can easily say, on the 17th of this month will be 10 years.
All right.
All right, glory to God.
See, that's because I came out of that. Well, God, why don't she do? No, it was, God, can you help me?
Yeah.
Because I'm not right. And you know how you do it. Oh, you so good? You can't get in there and wash them dishes? You don't think you're too good to wash dishes now, do you? Well, let's remind you of when you didn't have a wife. Could you wash the dishes then? So she was stretching her hands out to the poor. This superwoman would go out of her way to be a blessing in the people in her path.
Amen.
And then you hear snow. Somebody said, it don't snow in Jerusalem. Yes, it do. It get cold. Matter of fact, the Bible references to snow. It says every few years, it would snow in Jerusalem. It does get cold in Jerusalem. But this superwoman wasn't afraid of that. You know why? Because she had already prepared for the winter. See, it said it dressed them in scarlet. Back in that day, they didn't have heaters or things like that to heat their house. So they would have a little iron tub where they would put coal. And they'd gather around that coal to stay warm. But they also had their covers and their coverings of their clothes. Well, she would make them a deep dark scarlet or red.